Hello, BookTube. A late video, a crowded day, much more crowded than I foresaw. The morning was blissful, but then I had early errands to run in the early part of the afternoon, and it's murderously humid here, which is wonderful. But it makes being presentable anywhere you end up almost impossible. It's because it feels wonderful, but it's also exactly like if you went to the sauna at your local gym, turn it up nice and hot, and then put all your clothes on and try not to sweat. It doesn't happen. You end up shambling into your destination like a swamp creature. And then I came back, cleaned up, played with Frida for longer than I expected, and then fell into a Skyping hole. And then there was writing to be done because I've had one particular review on my plate for days now, and it was starting to oppress me mentally. And I decided the way to fix that is just to write the thing, and then you're done with it. So I did. Then here, that finds me here, where it's almost time for me to turn into a pumpkin, and yet I haven't seen your faces yet today. And I had a whole bunch of ideas for videos, but the least I can do is a Friday Reads to show you some of the books that I'm going to be reading tonight and tomorrow. Before you, maybe check my medic alert bracelet, I am aware that most of these books are fiction. I'm currently playing a lot of cleanup for August books and early September books. There are stragglers coming in at a greater clip than usual, and I want to make sure that I read them all. I don't want to be concentrating on, late September or early October, get an August book in finished copy and think, well, your time is over. No. August has just started. So the first one is not fiction. The first one is science. It's popular science, but it's by an actual scientist. So I have high hopes, and I haven't got to it yet. So it's Through a Glass Brightly, by David Barash, using science to see our species as we really are. And the publicity material, the dust jacket copy and whatnot, indulges in all sorts of red herrings about the anthropic cosmological principle or intelligent design of humans or whatnot. And of course, my knee-jerk reaction reading some of those things was to be irate. I know that will shock you, but my knee-jerk reaction was to be irate, was to think this is yet another popular science book that's trying to bridge the gap between science and religion by lying about science. The anthropic cosmological principle, it's a mouthful, but for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's this crackpot idea that the constants of the universe are such that they seem fine-tuned for the arrival of human life. Nothing you could say about the universe is more absurd than this, and yet it has traction, especially in the Christian apologist communities, where people look at a layman's misunderstanding of science filtered through two or three more layman's even worse misunderstanding of science in order to say that the universal qualities that were born in the Big Bang all favor human life. It's utterly ridiculous. Same thing with intelligent design. The idea the Paley idea that if you find a watch on the beach, you might not know what it is. If you're a primitive aborigine or whatever who's never seen a watch before, you might not know what it is, but you know it's designed. You know it's not like the sand or the rocks. It looks technological. It looks like someone made it. And the whole idea, so endemic to Christian apologetics, is intelligent design is clearly visible in humans. Nothing could be further from the truth. And nothing could be more easily demonstrably disproven. But the sampling that I've done on this book has shown me clearly that whether that dust jacket material was written with or without the author's knowledge, the author has no truck with such things. He might raise them just because other people talk about them, only to politely demolish them. So I'm looking forward to hunkering down with this, but it's very thin, so it won't take long at all to do. And then we have science fiction, not something we see often on this channel. I would like to see a lot more of it, and I'm hoping that will happen. This is Ball Lightning by Cixin Liu, or Liu Cixin, a Chinese superstar of a science fiction writer whose I have a shocking confession to make here, whose book, The Three-Body Problem, which everyone and their mother really, really loved. I liked it too, but I didn't like it anywhere near as much as everybody else. I don't know why. I thought it was extremely competently done. Maybe it was just I tend to get hitched up a little when I know I'm reading a work in translation, especially when it's a translation from a language that I can't read myself. Then I start to feel watched. I start to feel elbowed in the ribs. I start to feel like the translator's in the room, and that almost always bothers me. And there are rare instances where in a case like that, the translator will do such a smooth job that I won't notice them at all. And I always consider that to be really good as far as translation go. I've never actually tested it by learning the language and seeing if that's true. But one way or another, this is a relatively hard science about someone who studies the phenomenon of ball lightning and encounters in that phenomenon. The deeper they dig, the more they encounter until they're in a world of science fiction instead of static electricity. And I'm gonna. I haven't read the advanced copy, so I'm just going to give it a try because I'm very happy to have science fiction. And then this next one is fiction. It's contemporary fiction. It's not a debut, but it is a debut in English. If I remember correctly, it's this author's first. This author is famous in her own country, but I think this is her first book in English, and it is her debut novel. It's just she's not, a debut author. She's written many things since this. This is The Story of H by Marina Perez-Agua, who is I gotta read you this author biography. It's incredible. She is a Spanish novelist and short story writer known for her powerfully visual and mind-bending narratives. She has published 2 short story collections and 2 novels in Spain, and her stories have been published in outlets including Electric Literature and Granta. She has a degree in art history and is currently completing her PhD at Stony Brook University. She practices freediving and has swum across the Strait of Gibraltar in less than 4 hours. I don't think Salman Rushdie can say that. This is... let me see here. This is the story of the sort of the Big Bang of this book. No horrible pun intended. Is the Hiroshima bomb. This is August 6, 1945, the day the Enola Gay unleashed an atomic inferno over Hiroshima. In the wake of its devastation, 2 stories unfold. There's Jim, an American soldier who goes in search of Yoro, a child entrusted to his care who disappears after the atomic bombs fall. And there's H, a Japanese girl who is at school nearby when the bomb drops and indelibly marks her with its destruction. Both victims of the bomb, H and Jim, meet for the first time in New York years later. Their paths cross by chance, they fall in love, and together they continue Jim's search for Yoro. And I don't know what to expect from this. I've never read this author before, so but it's a pretty thing, and it's on the docket for tonight. Of course, because I'm on camera. Suddenly Frida, who has been quiescent for hours, suddenly wants attention. And you need to calm down. You can't act up every time I'm on camera. That won't work at all. Then the next 2 are debuts, also fiction. No, baby. You have to settle down. You can't act up every time I'm on camera. This first one is by Yetu Moore. It's called She Would Be King. And the author is the founder of One More Book, Moore, same as her surname, and a graduate of Howard University, Columbia University, and the University of Southern California. And I want to read you the plot, because the plot verges straight into comic books. In the West African village of Lai, red-haired Bessa is cursed at birth and exiled on suspicion of being a witch. Bitten by a viper and left for dead, she nevertheless survives. On a plantation in Virginia, June Day hides his unusual strength until a confrontation with an overseer forces him to flee. And in the Blue Mountains of Jamaica, Norman Aragon, the child of a white British colonizer and a maroon slave, can fade from sight at will, just as his mother could. Hang on a second here. This is coming right to my doorstep. I don't want to shout in video. It's omnipresent sirens. I live right on the edge of a war zone. But nevertheless, it's done now. Okay. Bessa, misunderstood by her own people, finds a new life with a group of African-American settlers in the colony of Monrovia. When she meets June Day and Norman Aragon, it isn't long before they realize they're all cursed, or perhaps uniquely gifted. Together, they protect the weak and vulnerable, but only Bessa can salvage the tense relationship between the settlers and the indigenous tribes. The all-seeing spirit of the wind weaves together their extraordinary stories. If she was not a woman, the wind says of Bessa, she would be king. Sounds ambitious and not at all upper middle class Connecticut divorce, so I'm going to give it a try. And the next one is a debut we've seen on this channel already. I had the advanced copy and I just haven't got to it. I've dipped in, again, a toe here and there, always in the hope when I do that. The hope in my mind is always that I'll be swept away, same as any of you, same as any reader. We read dutifully, we go from book to book, we look at things, we learn about things, then we open it and we give it a try, sooner or later, in one way or another. In BookTube, it's mostly whim, some of us not. Sooner or later, we decide which will be the next book we'll read. But we all know what it feels like to start a book and get just swept away, so that you couldn't pick another book if you tried. And I'm no different. I read all the time. I read for a living, but I have the same deep desire for that to happen. So I dip into books, hoping. And I dipped into this one. It didn't quite happen. That doesn't mean that the end of the book won't be good. It just won't be one of those books. And this is Presidio by Randy Kennedy, which ordinarily it has a cover blurb. Randy Kennedy captures the funny yet tragic relentlessness of survival in an unforgiving place. Let's hope he keeps his novelistic cool and brings us much, much more. That's a cover blurb by Larry McMurtry, which you might think would win the cover blurb sweepstakes for this particular batch of books, but you'd be wrong, because the cover blurb on Ball Lightning is by Barack Obama. So, boom, you're done. You lose. But this is, I think we learned about this when I got the advance copy. In the early 1970s, after years of working as a solitary car thief, Troy Falconer comes back to his hometown to help his luckless younger brother Harlan search for his wife, who has run away with the little money Harlan had. When they steal a station wagon for the journey, the brothers accidentally kidnap Martha Zacharias, a Mennonite girl asleep in the back of the car. Martha turns out to be a stubborn survivor who refuses to be sent home. So together the unlikely road companions make their way toward the Mexican border, pursued by the police and Martha's vengeful husband. I'm gonna give this a concerted try. I'll be reading all of these things. I'll be reading a large chunk of this whole lineup tonight and tomorrow morning. Then the last book that I want to show you. We've got science and then 4 fiction. None of them long. None of them will take me very long. And then this next one, which won't take any time at all, and yet I will savor it quite a bit, because it's a sequel to one of my favorite books from last year. This is Shark Dog and the School Trip Rescue, where Shark Dog and his little girl and her famous explorer father take a bunch of kids on a school trip into the forest to make discoveries and see what's interesting and whatnot, and they have adventures, and Shark Dog is at the heart of those adventures, because he's not quite, he has all the adorable traits of a dog and all the adorable traits of a shark, as you can see. Look at this one up here. And the original book was called Shark Dog, and I just loved it. So of course I'm gonna gobble this right up. And there you go. That is my my tentative Friday reads. It isn't the whole weekend. I really mean to keep meaning to institute a new video where on Monday I do a follow-up of an AM reading follow-up that looks back at the weekend. Maybe I'll do that this time around. So we have Shark Dog, the sequel. Then we have She Would Be King by Y.A.2 Moore. We have Presidio by Randy Kennedy. We have Ball Lightning by Xinxin Liu. We have The Story of H by Marina Perezagua. And we have Through a Glass Brightly by David Barash. About it's just a bunch of footnoted chapters, each one of which is about a popular science subject of one kind or another: evolution, natural selection, intelligent design, the anthropic cosmological principle, a whole bunch of other things that I'm eager to do. That will be first on the list, and then we'll go through the rest of these. And when I'm done, it's straight on to more reading and also writing. I'm very, very happy to report that my next Christian Science Monitor review is Marm Darling. It's that book of that biography of Princess Margaret that made a few BookTube channels last year when it came out in its UK edition. It's getting an American edition, and when the UK edition was being talked about, I'd already read it. I absolutely loved it. Thought it was absolutely fantastic, and I was hoping, I might have even hoped on camera, that when the time came, I would get a nice big audience to review it. I wouldn't just be doing it for Open Letters Review. And that's going to happen. So that's wonderful. Can't wait. It's always nice when you're eager to do a review that's on your docket anyway. But that's all for tomorrow. Tonight, I think I had a review on my docket, and it was a massive book, and it was a massive... felt like a leaden weight. I kept adding and adding and adding thoughts and angles and material to it. Finally, I thought, if you don't just write this thing, you're going to be planning it forever. So I just wrote it, and now I feel like I owe myself just a glut of reading. So I'm gonna dig right into these books. So once again, sorry for the late upload, but I'll try to mend my ways tomorrow. Now that I've got that Gallic dead weight off my shoulder, I'll try and mend my ways tomorrow. But this is it for today. I don't think there'll be any other videos, so I'm gonna go fight with Frida Bean for a bit, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.